of my favorite segments that we've gotten into the last couple of weeks is called Different Game or More of the Same, where we look at certain units or certain teams and decipher whether or not what we saw last week is an anomaly and it was just bad or really, really good for a 1 week sample, or if we think we're going to get more of that the following week and moving forward. So let's start with the Chicago Bears, who this past week end up having this dominating win on Thursday night against the Washington Commanders as a near touchdown underdog, 451 total yards in that spot, 40 points scored, 3 of 6 in the red zone. Seemed like everything they were doing was working for them as they embarrassed Washington on primetime. 2 weeks in a row now that we've seen an uptick in this Bears offense. Is it a different game or more of the same as we look ahead to their game with the Vikings in week 6?
Well, I think there'll be a little bit more of the same, Stormy, because their opponent that they're playing is not exactly an elite team, right? I mean, so I think a lot of it is the NFL is always about the matchups. That's why week to week you can't carry over from 1 week to the next and just assume a team's going to be good over and over again because of the matchups and how it all predicates it in there. Flores is a good defensive coordinator. I think he'll have his team ready to go. But, they're ranked 21 in EPA in terms of allowing plays. Washington was 29th. I mean, Washington isn't very good at all on defense. Couldn't stop the run and never adjusted out their coverages. So I don't anticipate that Minnesota will be that vanilla. The other factor is Minnesota will move the football on them, even without Jefferson. So I think you'll get a little bit more of the same. The key's going to be, forget the yards. Can Fields protect the football well enough that the Vikings won't be back in the game and have an opportunity to get that magic luck that they've seemed that they've lost a little bit? Lady Luck has left them, but does it come back in Chicago? A lot of people are on Chicago, there's no doubt. This line was open at 4.5. It's down to 2.5. And that's not the Jefferson news, Stormy. That is not the Jefferson news. That is a lot of people playing the Bears in this one. They have gotten a ton of support in the marketplace, and a lot of money has come in on them. And I think that a lot of people are anticipating more of the same, more of that offense that we saw last week is going to generate back.
People liked the uptick that they've seen from that offense. And Michael, to your point, we talked so much last year about how if you're Derek Stevens at Circa, where I broadcast from, you're not letting Kevin O'Connell in the building because he was so lucky last year. 11-0 in one-score games. That stat that we have is just stuck in our minds. 0-4 in one-score games to this point. Obviously, a field goal spread here. Chicago getting 2.5 at home. And for inquiring minds, Kirk Cousins was asked about trade rumors yesterday. Said they're not worth his time and energy at this point. But this game, a critical one as it pertains to the future of the Minnesota Vikings and what they're trying to do, and if they need to go ahead and turn the page in a rebuild. Another team that has even more pressing and dire questions about it right now, Michael, an organization you know well, the New England Patriots, who are coming off getting shut out. Their last 2 games have been brutal offensive performances. Last week specifically against the Saints, just 156 total yards, 3 turnovers, 2 picks, and a lost fumble. This week, they have to go ahead and face the Raiders and some people that they know very well in Josh McDaniels and Jimmy Garoppolo. Different game or more of the same from a rough Patriots offense the last couple weeks?
I think we're going to get more of the same, Stormy. I don't know if we've hit bottom yet. I think it's hard for me to say, but it's true. Mac Jones, the offensive line. I mean, Trent Brown wasn't at practice yesterday. They had a bunch of their players were missing from the practice in terms of being able to participate. I think they're questionable. I don't know if they're doubtful, but they've got a lot of injuries on their team right now. Secondary injuries, offensive line injuries. The line hasn't played very well, and the team lacks confidence. I mean, it's going to take something happening in the game for them to regenerate their confidence. And if one thing goes bad, like what happened in the Saints game, then their whole team's confidence falls apart. I think that's going to be the challenge. I think it's going to take some time to win that back. I mean, they haven't been able to. The one game they've gotten a lead in, one game, was the Jet game, and they won that game. That gave them some confidence, and they closed it out. But, this Raider offense has not been great either, so that the game's going to be tight. They just got to be able to feel like, can Mac Jones make a play when it's critical? I think they're headed for more of the same.
Maybe an under could be in play. That number's sitting 41.5 right now. But Mac Jones, it's not a good situation when your quarterback's getting pulled in the fourth quarter just because games are out of reach. And Bailey Zappi, who everybody at
put him out.
Go ahead.
And he put him out of reach. I mean, it's not like he did,
Yeah.
he had chances to make plays and they can't make a play. Look, here's the other issue is their line is really bad and they can't run the ball. I mean, last year when they went into Las Vegas, they could run the football. They could run the ball. And this year they can't.
Yeah, and I was just going to follow that up with Bailey Zappi, who so many people last year were like all gung-ho about it, Zappi hour. He hasn't looked great in the time that we've had to see him on the field as well. But let's go to the opposite side of last week's game and the New Orleans Saints, that defense. So I know a lot of the issues that we saw in the New England Patriots matchup was self-inflicted from the Patriots side, but this defense, they have 2 sacks, only allow 9 first downs in the spot. It's a shutout win for them. Different game or more of the same from that unit taking on the Texans this week on the road.
Well, C.J. Stroud's never thrown an interception in his NFL career. He's been really good. But Dennis Allen, for all the mocking that he gets and the numbers of him as a head coach, which obviously you can't hide from him, that's kind of what it is. He's a really good defensive coordinator. This is going to be a hard game for him for C.J. Stroud, because Allen does a lot of good things defensively. He makes it hard on the quarterback to read the coverage, to understand what's going on pre and post snap. So this will be a challenge. I think their defense will play well. One thing about Houston, they haven't really run the football effectively. They're finally getting their offensive line back a little bit this week. They got it back last week, so that certainly can help them. But, for me, this is going to be a challenge because of Allen's defense. This could be another underplay, right? Mm-hmm. I know Allen has not been good. He's the 4th worst of any coach in the last 20 years in terms of against the spread. Gruden, Shanahan, and Gus Bradley are in that category, Mike Shanahan. So, but defensively, we can't undersell what he can do as a defensive coordinator, and that's what he'll do. The Saints offense is struggling, but look, they played San Francisco's scheme a ton in the past. They should know how to attack it.
Yeah, and speaking to that, Michael, I actually do have under tickets in the account in both the Raiders-Patriots game and Saints-Texans. I want to say Saints on a 12-0 under streak where things sit right now. Let's go to the Dallas Cowboys, who obviously got embarrassed this past week in primetime on Sunday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. That was a unit that in the 4 games prior had only allowed 41 points cumulatively, give up 42 in this game with San Francisco. That defense is not accustomed to looking like that. What did you make of it? Yeah. And is it a different game or more of the same looking ahead to their matchup with the Chargers?
Oh, I think it'll be a different game. I think the Cowboys were embarrassed. I think that's a great thing for Mike McCarthy. I think everybody now is saying we've overvalued them. I think if they would have beaten San Francisco, this line's 5.5. I'm shocked it's 2.5. I thought it would be 3. I'm surprised it hasn't come down. So, now look, Gilmore is on the injury list. Lawrence is on the injury list. They're supposed to be healthier. We'll see. But they'll put pressure on Herbert. They definitely will, even though with Eckler playing. I think the defense plays much better. I really do. I think the defense will play much better, and I think they'll be able to run the ball on the Chargers. And when Mike McCarthy can run the football, when he can have balance in his play calling, they become a better offense. And he'll run the ball because everybody runs the ball in the Chargers. Let's face it. Who doesn't?
And I never thought I would say this. I feel bad for Dak Prescott that so many people are blaming all of the Saints, all of the Cowboys' issues on him. Like, this isn't a one-player game. The defense had major issues this past week. You can't put everything on Dak's shoulders. And that's as a 49ers fan saying this about an organization and franchise that I have been born and raised to hate my entire life.
Yeah. Look, I agree. Everybody, but it's, we all take the lazy, not we all, but most take the lazy narrative. It's like, okay, it's Dak's fault. Well, it's a little bit of everybody's fault. It's just not one item why you lose a football game. And, it's like, look, I think to me, this is a game, Chargers coming off a bye. Are they going to be, they don't have Mike Williams. They get Eckler back. Are they healthy? The one thing the Cowboys can do is they can block you up front now. They can, look, that Patriot defense is good, and they were healthy in the game. Now, they lost their corners. They lost Gonzalez in the game. They ended up having no corners. But they were moving the football on them. They'll move the ball on the Chargers, and they'll put pressure on Herbert. There's no question about that.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.